Now we are moving on to an insightful panel discussion on where Sri Lanka is with C-190 ratification. Let me introduce our panelists for today. Nilanthi Ranasinghe, the Assistant Superintendent Information and Communication Technology, Sri Lanka Post. She is a seasoned activist and advocate for workers' rights, championing the C-190 ratification. She has a career span of over 2 decades in the Sri Lanka Postal Department. Beyond her practical experience, Nilanthi holds a Bachelor of Labor Management from the University of Colombo and a Master of Business Management in Teaching. She has also bolstered her expertise with a diploma in trade union activism from the Solidarity Center. Nilanthi's dedication extends to promoting gender equality in the workplace. She has been an active participant in the Gender Platform of South Asia, where she championed gender diversity and the creation of peaceful work environments. Her collaborative work with numerous trade union activists across the region demonstrates her commitment to broader social justice initiatives. Nilanthi Ranasinghe. May I please invite you to come and take your seat, please? Our next panelist, Bani Chandrasena. With over 20 years of experience in human resources across various industries, Bani has cultivated a strong passion for people development, from frontline workers to C-suite leaders. In her last role at London Stock Exchange Group Sri Lanka, she dedicated the last 5 years to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives before embarking on independent projects through her consultancy, People Link. Currently serving as the president of Diversity Collective Lanka, DCLK, a non-profit organization, Bani leads efforts to promote inclusive practices in corporate settings, education space, and entrepreneurship. Respectful workplaces is a specific learning and training DCLK has been focusing on over the last 3 years, supported by International Finance Corporation, IFC. With a keen eye on the future, Bani is now directing her expertise towards a new agriculture project, aiming to drive positive change and innovation in agritourism through a livelihood project under the brand Tamilivatta Sustainable Farms. Bani's primary objectives are to continue to learn and gain new skills, while sharing her knowledge and abilities with others in communities as well as corporates through the many hats she wears, while mastering how to live a simple life. Bani Chandrasena. May I please invite you to take your seat, please. May I also invite Mano Sekaram and Shyamali Ranaraja to join the panel, please. The panel will be moderated by Tusita Kumara Kulasingham, board member of WCIC and the event co-chair.
Both our previous speakers are on this panel for the simple reason they bring in a lot of knowledge and value to the area of work. As you all know now, C-190 is the ILO convention which will be binding international treaty with obligations for the ratifying states. It clearly outlines the recommendations providing guidance for the implementation of the convention. It covers the rights of everyone to the world of work, free from violence and harassment, including gender-based violence and harassment. It provides countries with a historic opportunity to shape the future of the work based on dignity and respect, which is a really required position. Nevertheless, to say how important this will be for our country if we can get it into motion. And lots of organizations have been trying to gather the momentum, but we have still not got there. And already around 30 countries in the world have ratified. Shamali, about 30, 32? Yeah, there's a list here, yeah. So still, there are lots of other countries that need to do it as well. But it's interesting to see some of the African countries are already on board. So there is no reason why progressive countries like ours should not consider. From WCIC, this has been an area that has been very dear to us. We have been working on creating awareness on the needs to combat GBVH at a workplace for several years now. In the absence of proper laws to support a survivor, GBVH has very little justice being awarded. GBVH at workplace is prevalent. We conducted an extensive study using Kanta as a research agency in 2022, covering both entrepreneurs as well as corporate women, which clearly established that it exists. And at that point, actually, it shocked us because we didn't really think that it was that serious. 80% of the sample said that they were aware of situations that are happening in and around them, and over 60% indicated that they have experienced it themselves. And unfortunately, over 80% of the people who have faced it chose not to report it for various reasons. Because in an organization, most times it is not seen well. It's like it would be considered as you have asked for it. Maybe you were wearing clothing that kind of precipitated this activity. So there are so many reasons. And in organizations, processes and systems are not in place. And along with DCLK, WCIC is also working on a program which creates respectful workplace. We'll talk about all these in a bit. So without any further elaborations, because we know what the subject is, let me start with Mano. Putting you on the spot again. Manu, what is your take, a short introduction, what is your take on this subject and why do you think it's important?
Sorry. I think, this harassment has been going on for a long, long time. And I think the biggest issue I see is the perpetrators are getting away scot-free. I think that's the fundamental part of it. I mean, we know the sad news, what happened in Anuradhapura. For me, the prosecution, I know Shamil can say, the director in charge should be prosecuted for not providing a safe environment. That lies at the responsibility of the leadership. I mean, if we don't start there, I think everyone will get out of it, right? If you run an institution, if you run a company, the buck stops at you. You cannot say, right, you are there to provide a very safe environment, and it is your responsibility to ensure there is no harassment of any sort. I mean, if we make that as a mandate, I don't know how many boards will really take it. It is a responsibility. It is just like if you don't pay EPF and ETF, the board of directors are responsibility. I mean, I think once that responsibility is shifted to the leadership, I think that's the only time we will see momentum. That's my take on that.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with what Mano said, but at the same time, in Sri Lanka, there are two different sets of laws. And sadly, the prosecution of the director won't happen because it's in the public sector. So Sri Lanka has enacted different labor laws for the public sector and a different set for the private sector. So if the government were to bring in legislation which applies only in private sector workplaces and not in the public sector, not only applicable only in the private sector and not in the public sector, then there would be partial coverage. So we can't do this piecemeal. This has to be done, and the demand has to come from every one of us. That protection is extended across all sectors to cover everyone who's in employment, who's working, or as we saw earlier, covered by C-190. So most often the government has got away with dividing and conquering. The private sector can't go to court on fundamental rights, the public sector can. But the public sector can't go to the Labour Department and complain of violation of workers' rights because they are employed under the authority of the cabinet. So this has to be a push of a different kind. But I would also like to warn that 190 ratification is not some panacea for all violence and harassment ills in the country. it is only as effective as the enforcement and the willingness to comply with it. But holding the management and the board of directors accountable will go a long way. Thank you.
Over to you, Bani.
Okay, so I'm not going to repeat everything you all said. I agree, but I think when they introduced me, they talked about respectful workplaces, something we're working with the World Bank on. And what caught my attention there, and I think that's adding to what all of you all said, is leadership needs to be held accountable. Yes, as a country we need to. But I think for our mindsets to change, I think there is a lot of education, awareness, and all of us also taking responsibility. I focus on corporates. I've been in the corporate sector in human resources. What I feel sometimes is, what I've seen, what I've felt is, when something happens, we pass it on to someone else to solve the problem. We have to take responsibility. When we see disrespect, what are we going to do about it? Yes, the ecosystem, the national system, the laws all need to come into place. I'm not denying any of that. But with all of that in place, people will still get away with it if the bystander, the witness, decides it's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem. And I think there is a lot of that I see in Sri Lanka. In the workplace, in the buses, in the public transport, in community, I don't want to touch it. It's somebody else's problem unless I'm a victim, and then you're isolated. So as much as I agree law is needed, leadership needs to take control, be responsible, I would like this, I'm hoping 190 ratification will also help raise awareness with children in schools, so that we create a generation that decides it's my problem if I see indignity, if I see disrespect. And the training and work we do in the corporate sector is very much about that. As much as you need to have, guidelines, policy, accountability, measurement, and what we call the bystander intervention is, in my opinion, equally important, and that's what's going to sustain it. Because then it's not one guard dog, all of us are responsible for making it better. So I would think that's the part I would like to push on.
Nilanthi, over to you.
ලංකාවේ පබ්ලික් සෙක්ටර් එක නියෝජනය කරන වෘත්තීය සමිතියක සමාජිකාවක් විදියට, ඒ වගේම පබ්ලික් සෙක්ටර් එක නියෝජනය කරන කෙනෙක් විදියට මට කියන්න පුළුවන් අපි වෘත්තීය සමිති වශයෙන්ුත් වෘත්තීය සමිති විදියටත් ගොඩාක් එක එක්කෙනා තම තමුන්ගේ තේ කෝප්පය හදාගන්න මට්ටමට වෙන් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. මේ වෙන් වෙලා ඉන්න එක හරහා අපිට බෑ එක ඉල්ලීමක් වෙනුවෙන්, එක දෙයක් වෙනුවෙන් කතා කරන්න, අපිට බල කරන්න බැරුව යනවා. අපි මේ බෙදිලා ඉන්නකම් අපිට බැරුව යනවා එක ඉල්ලීමක් වෙනුවෙන් එකට කතා කරන්න, එකට නැගී සිටින්න. ඒකින්ද අපි විධිමත් අංශය කියන්නේ ෆෝමල් සෙක්ටර් එකේ අපි රාජ්‍ය අංශය, ප්‍රයිවට් මේ පුද්ගලික අංශය කියලා දෙපිරිසක් ඉන්නවා. අපේ ලංකාවේ කන්ස්ටිටියුෂන් එකෙම ලංකාවේ තියෙන නීති පද්ධතියෙම අපිට බැරියර් එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා පෞද්ගලික අංශයේ කණ්ඩායමටත් රාජ්‍ය අංශයේ කණ්ඩායමටත් එකට එකතු වෙලා වෘත්තීය සමිතිය හදන්න බෑ කියලා. ඉතින් මේක හරහා අපි දෙපිරිස වෙන් වෙලා ඉන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මීට අමතරව අපිත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන අවිධිමත් අංශය, ගෙවල් වල ඉන්න domestic workersලා, plumbers ලා, three wheel driversලා, මේ කණ්ඩායමත් මේගොල්ලොත් වැඩ කරන ජනතාව, මේ කණ්ඩායමත් එකතු කරගන්න ඕනේ. අපි එකට එකතු වෙලා එක ගමනක් ගියොත් අපිට පුළුවන් අර අපි කතා කරලා අපි දන්න පරණ කතන්දරේ අපි එකතු වෙලා ගියොත් අපිට දැල උස්සන් යන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්නම් අපි ඔක්කොම උගලට අහු වෙලා මැරෙන්න පුළුවන්.
Thank you, Nilanthi. So I'll start with Manu. The questions once again. Manu, you've done like several successful startups and ventures which have basically shared the limelight at the highest possible level. In the organizations that you've been involved with, did you consider that violence and harassment was an issue? But a lot depends on the culture you create. If not, how is it that you created a culture free from violence and harassment?
So, all the organization I worked for and I built, there is no two doubts, there is violence and harassment. There is absolutely, we try to sweep it under the carpet. There is. I can't see one organization in Sri Lanka which does not have it, right? Now the question is, as leaders at least, how do we ensure that you eradicate this or make action to ensure that this doesn't happen? For me, fundamentally, it is a leadership responsibility. You cannot eradicate without leadership. Because finally, if the leadership is committed to do anything, it'll really cascade down. And I think that is what is missing, right? In our organization, we ensure its leadership and inclusiveness of women in that process is so important, because they are the ones who are so vulnerable. So I think it is about building a culture, openly talking about it, and the thing is, you have to blame and shame. The prosecution has to be so severe, right? I know we have violated some of these fundamental things, but I think there's no way, right? You have to ensure that no is no, and there must be absolute respect for every individual. If you build an organization, I walked into an organization, there is absolutely no respect for individuals, right? And it says, so you have to build that culture. And that culture has to been built very consciously. And I think we really, in the private sector, we suffer for something. Because the people who come from the uni and the schools, they have a complete different. We have to get them to unlearn, right? Because it is inbreeding, ragging, making comments. Because for some of them, they think what they're doing is the norm, right? Right. So that is the issue, right? So you said, you can't speak to someone like that. There is a civic way of telling something. So I think that is the biggest stress we have, trying to change this. So I think I agree with you. It is about the society. And I think Bani and Nilanthi, I really agree. I mean, from a three-wheeler, they think these are fundamental, this is their rights. The passenger, the customer, I'm doing you a favor and I can say what you. So I think it has to do a lot with education. But I agree, we have to educate, but it has to be a characteristic. Because just look at it this way. For a very short period, I lived in the Middle East for my job. And I'll give you this example, and then you say how powerful it is. During my young days, I was posted. And, and this country, it was UAE, Dubai. At that time, maybe 30 years or 40 years ago, it was a police state because they were so strict about everything. Now it has changed, but at that time. And my sponsor was a director of CID, right? So I asked him this, Sheikh Khalid. He said, how is your experience? I was there for a very short time, 6 months. I said, I feel it is a police state because everything is monitored. He said, why? I said, I parked my car on a different spot. And the way the police came and basically harassed me and, got me to, the words they used and this thing. And he said, oh, okay, I'm so sorry for what has happened to you. But he asked me 2 questions. He said, in your life, I was in my 20s, what is the first time you have gone to a police station? Right? I said, yeah, for a traffic offense. So he said, if we are so strict at traffic offense, because we have so much of migrants, because you come from different countries, you all won't even think of doing anything else so bad. So I think this is also to do with discipline of a society. Any country you go from the traffic, you will the way they drive, you will know how disciplined the society is. I think that is the thing. I think you have to fundamentally discipline our society in a way to be very civic conscious and that you respect personal space. So I think with all these enforcement, what we have to focus is about ethics and at this level, and it says the enforcement of law is the biggest issue.
Thank you. I think to add on to that, and in the Sri Lankan culture, I think teledramas have a big role to play in creating this, okay, anything is okay kind of, the way bad language that you use and the things that you do and get away with. I guess all these also have an impact on how we behave and what happens. And to the audience, we are going to open it up for questions. So if you all do have any questions, please write it and keep. There will be like just a couple of questions entertained because we are running a tight schedule today. Shambi, over to you. From a legal point of view, in the current environment, what redress does a survivor have in the event they face with an issue?
Thank you. So we don't have a lot of laws, but what we do have is the Penal Code, Section 345, which deals with sexual harassment, and it covers sexual harassment in the workplace. There are other places you can complain to for violence and harassment. If it is by a police officer, even if it's in your workplace, you can go on a fundamental rights application. So I won't go there because of the lack of time. And even under what is called the Industrial Disputes Act, which applies in the private sector, you can complain to the Department of Labor. But it's very difficult to do while you're still in employment. This is why we need alternate places of dispute resolution, like mediation. And this I'm very, very strong about. It's not just punitive action, but you need places where you can go for alternate dispute resolution, like mediation in certain instances. But coming back to what can a victim do, the way it is actually drafted, the law in Sri Lanka is very powerful, because this is what people don't know. Where sexual harassment is concerned, it is what is considered unacceptable by the victim. So it's not what the police consider acceptable for a female of older years. You know, we were told by one trade union that when they took a female worker to the police station in an apparel factory, because her supervisor had groped her several times while she was at the line working, the police officer had looked her up and down and said, so you should be grateful that a mahatya like that, you know, groped you, because look at you, you're like the back of a bus. So it is not what the policeman considers acceptable. It is what you consider acceptable or not. So I grew up with a family of 4 boys. I was subjected to the university rag at home, basically, growing up. So, you know, I grew up playing tap raga with the boys. I could give as good as I got. What I consider acceptable is not what my friend who grew up in a single parent household with her mom and 2 sisters considers acceptable. And she's entitled to say it's not acceptable without me jumping in there and saying, oh, what is that? I have faced worse. This is what happens in workplaces. Ane katawahagana inda oita wadiya kochchara wela tiyanawada apita. No. It is what you consider unacceptable. I'll give you a very quick example of a senior manager who used to send to the sales and marketing team motivational messages, jokes in the morning to sort of gee them up and be like, you know, get work. So there were these 2 young female undergrads who joined, who told him, well, we don't like the kind of blue jokes you send every day, some cartoon off the internet which is, you know, slightly risky and, you know, yucky. Would you not? It was like, oh no, you have to learn to be tough, and if you're working here and blah, 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 and kept on sending. But it was a multinational company with a sexual harassment policy. They filed complaints. And he was appalled at how they had perceived it. And before the inquiry process was completed, he decided to resign because he himself realized how obnoxious he had been. And this was a senior manager with over 20-25 years experience, married with a couple of daughters. I'm sorry, it's not Mr. Manosikram, but I'm glad to say it wasn't. But this is the kind of thing that happens. You think that, oh, it's all good fellowship and, you know, everybody is doing it, so you should learn to toughen up. And no, you don't have to. But the sad part is that when you go to the police station, what happens is something quite different. You can talk till you're blue in the face. They will say, oh, ඉතින් මොකද කරන්නේ? ඕක ඉතින් කවුරුත් දැක්කේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඔයක හැමෝටම කියනවානේ ඔය මහත්තයා ඉතින් ඔච්චර පොඩ්ඩක් අටවහගෙන ඉන්න. That's what they say. But this lady, Palaketi versus Gunasekara, the case I told you, she went to the police against the principal and the senior teacher. The police refused to take action. In Sri Lanka, you can't usually file a magistrate court case in a criminal case criminal complaint where the police refuse to file action because they said there wasn't enough evidence. But she got special permission from the Attorney General, filed 2 private plaints, and they were convicted and asked to pay compensation, and she fought it all the way to the Supreme Court and won it there as well. So it can be done. Not everybody can do it. She had the support of the union and lots of public support, but there are times when you have to say enough is enough and take a stand. And what Barney said is very important, solidarity. Speak up. I think our theme should be not accelerated action, but speak up. Men and women speak up in support of each other. You should not have to go through violence and harassment alone. Think about it. How many of us would get up in the bus and say, stop, sleeping on my shoulder in the guise that you have fallen asleep and, groping me in the rush? Not many would tap the fellow on the shoulder and say, don't do it. I can see what you're doing, get away from her. Or say, miss, why don't you change seats with me? I will sit there, you sit here. So we adopt, what is the word that I want, evasive action or controlling action by sitting in the front seat where the driver can see us. Now some buses have a camera inside. So we sit where the camera can catch us. So these are sort of accommodating and sort of evasive action, but that is not good enough. We have to stand up for each other and really make the laws work for us and be willing to do the hard yards. Yes, Sri Lanka is a very difficult country where litigation is concerned, and very often it's only the lawyers who win, not the litigants. But you have to do it sometimes. And this lady, Miss Palaketi, who went to the Supreme Court, is a clear example of that.
Thank you. So, yes, what she said is the laws do exist, but actually making use of the law is not an easy process, and it can be quite prolonged as well. Barney, can you touch on the work in the absence of C-190 ratification and the current situation? What are the things that we can do to create awareness and the work that we do?
Thanks. So yes, companies can create a safe working environment, but like Mano said, leaders have to make it important enough and priority enough along the list of hitting the bottom line and all of that. And I'll be honest, the challenges we've faced is, it seems like it's too much effort to put that whole system in place, because it is not just about just going and talking about it. It is getting feedback, monitoring, measuring, holding people accountable. So I find companies are saying yes and joining, but not enough. I feel like I'm drumming the drum really hard for a few companies coming in. And of course, the kind of the business case or the evidence we talk about is a lot to do with the business case, which I'm not going to talk about here because it's about talent attraction, retention. It does affect the bottom line because a lot of the studies that have been done show violence and harassment creates a toxic environment, productivity goes down. I think the last study that IFC did in 2020 in Sri Lanka, the 9 companies that were researched or surveyed, the loss was 1.7 million US dollars in 1 year, because an employee loses 9 days of productivity or days of work annually because of this kind of environment. So it ranges from everything that we talked about, from the bullying, the harassment, and the thing is, we always think it's women, and that survey clearly said harassment, actually men are at risk more. Sexual harassment, yes, women are at risk more. But it's the mindset, which is what really bugs me and bothers me. And a lot of the work we do also to talk about what Shyamali mentioned, yes, it is how I perceive it, And the other element of that is the mental health support. The psychological support we have to give the victim or the witness. Because sometimes now, for example, I've been an HR manager. When I see something wrong happening, I want to go fix it. But at the end of the day, it's, yes, I have to create the environment. If I haven't created the environment, I have to try and help the victim get strong enough to be able to stand up. Because it's at the end of the day, I'm not supposed to be the fairy godmother. I'm supposed to be able to enable victims in situations like this. And the other element, now I'm going to be a little controversial here. I know we talk about this in sexual harassment, all of these kinds of stuff that we all fight about, and sometimes I get nervous with women because they get very angry about this. But as women, yes, you might be subject to this kind of harassment, but I'd like you all to think about, in your homes, how do you treat other people? How do you treat your kids? How do you treat your domestics? Because I find we're very good at getting all high and mighty about how I should be treated, but how do I treat other people? And I find, pardon me for saying this, in Sri Lanka, I have not found many houses that actually treat a domestic as an equal. They do not treat them with respect or dignity. And I think all of that totally comes back. And the mental health, okay, when you think of perpetrators, what kind of support do we give them from a mental health perspective? Because almost all perpetrators have been victims. It's no excuse, but I think we also need to think of the healing element, the psychological support needed if you want to break the cycle. It's not about just beating each other up, no, the wrong needs to be right, but we also need to make sure the next generation is better. And I find we need to put a lot more effort into that. I mean, in the work I've done in the companies I've been in, well-being, mental health was equally put up there against taking action and penalties, because I think we want to break the cycle, right? It's not just the one case here. It is about how we fix it for the future of Sri Lanka, the world. And I know the world is in chaos right now, so it's worse than ever. But my approach would be, we need to think of the healing, the mental health side, as much as the other elements, because you do need the victim to be able to not be scarred by this, or be able to get over the scar of it and get on and become more productive.
Thanks, Bani. I think in commercial organizations, most of you represent organizations here, there is, of course, a challenge for targets, drives, bottom line, and all that. But at the end of the day, the people who are there, if they are not mentally stable and mentally satisfied in that working environment, comfortable, it is very difficult to get the best out of each of them. So it is our responsibility again in organizations to create that environment, and that's actually the work that Bani probably will talk a little bit more about. It needs to happen. Although few organizations have started on this journey, there is a lot more that needs to be done. Nilanthi, over to you. You represent the public sector. Now, we in the private sector, we know like our area, but can you talk a little bit about what happens there?
As a government servant, I govern under established code and financial regulations. And මිනිස්ටර්ස්ලා රෑට දකින හීන උදේට සර්කියුලර් එකක් වුණාම ඒකෙනුත් අපිව රැකෙනවා. දවස ගානේ ඒගොල්ලෝ දකින හීන වලින් ඒගොල්ලෝ උදේට දාන සර්කියුලර් එකත් අපි ෆලෝ කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට් කෙනෙකුට තියෙන rules and regulations. මොකද අර established code එකේම තියෙනවා day to day government rules වලට අපි යටත් වෙන්න ඕනි කියලා. ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර් එකේ වර්කර්ස්ලාට නියම වෙච්ච වෙනම නීති පද්ධතියක් තියෙනවා. ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණාම යන්න ලේබර් ට්‍රිබියුනල් තැනක් තියෙනවා. අපි එහෙම හිතුවට ඒක මේ හරි ලස්සන ස්මූත් පාරක් නෙවෙයි කියන එක මම දන්නවා. ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට් කෙනෙකුට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණාම අපි ප්‍රශ්නයක් කියලා කියන්නේ ඕනෑම වර්කර් කෙනෙකුට අපි ප්‍රශ්නයක් කියලා කියන්නේ අපිට ඔෆිස් එකේ නැත්නම් අපේ වර්ක් ප්ලේස් එකේ අපිට ඉන්න විදිහක් නැති වෙන්න. ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් කියන්නේ මම ප්‍රශ්නයකට මුහුණ දෙනවා වර්ක් ප්ලේස් එකේ මගේ වර්කින් එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එක අනුව. එතකොට මට යන්න පාරක් නැත්තම් මම යන්න වෙන්නේ ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට් කෙනෙකුට හැටියට මට යන්න වෙන්නේ මගේ ඉමීඩියට් බොස් ගාවට. ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙන්නේ මගේ ඉමීඩියට් බොස් ගෙන්නම්. ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙන්නේ මගේ ඉමීඩියට් බොස් ගෙන්නම්. මම ජනාධිපතිට කම්ප්ලේන් කරන්නත් යන්න වෙන්නේ මගේ ඉමීඩියට් බොස් through. ඒක තමයි ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට්ලාට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ. අපි කොතනින්ද සහනය හොයාගන්නේ? අපි කොතනින්ද ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එක සෝල්ව් කරගන්නේ? මම චූටි උදාහරණයක් කියන්නම් පොඩි උදාහරණයක්. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැකලා ඇති පෝස්ට් ඔෆිස් එකේ කවුන්ටර් එක. මම මගේ සෙක්ටර් එකෙන් කියන්නේ පෝස්ට් ඔෆිස් එකේ කවුන්ටර් එක තියෙන්නේ පබ්ලික් කෙනෙකුට පබ්ලික්ට පේන්නේ නැහැ. ඇතුලේ අපි වාඩි වෙලා ඉන්න මෙතනින් උඩ විතරයි පේන්නේ. මගේ ඔෆිස් එකක pregnant lady කෙනෙක් හිටියා. You know how she's sitting in a seat. She can't sit like this for whole day. Just like this. With a short frock like that. එතන හිටපු PM ටික කාලයක් ගිහින් එයා චෙක් කරලා බලනවා එයා කියන හැම දෙයක්ම PM එයාට කතා කරලා කියනවා ඔයා කොහොමද මෙහෙම කියන්නේ? ඔයයි මෙහෙම කරන්නේ. එයා චෙක් කළා. මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මං කියන දේවල් කොහොමද මෙයා දන්නේ? මොකද PM ඉන්නේ වෙන තැනක මෙයා ඉන්නේ කවුන්ටර් එකේ. ඇයි මෙයා මට මේ විදිහට කරදර කරන්නේ? මෙයා කොහොමද මං කියන ඒවා දන්නේ? මෙයා PM ගෙන් පොඩි කරදරයක් එයාට තිබිලා තියෙනවා එයා කාටවත් කියලා නැහැ. නමුත් අවසානයේදී බලනකොට අර කවුන්ටර් එකේ යටින් කැමරා එකක් සෙට් කරලා. මෙයා ගියා පොලිසියට. මොකද එයාගේ හස්බන්ඩ් පොලිසියේ. එයා වෙන කාටවත් කිව්වේ නෑ එයාගේ හස්බන්ඩ් පොලිසියේ PC කෙනෙක්. එයා ගියා පොලිසියට. ගිහින් එයා පොලිසිය කම්ප්ලේන්ට් එකක් දැම්මා. මොකද උනේ? එයා පොලිසිය කම්ප්ලේන් එක දාපු එක ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ වැරද්දක්. ඔයා ඇයි මේක අපිට නොකිව්වේ? ඔයා ඇයි මේක අපිට නොකිව්වේ කියලා එයාට against ඉන්ක්වයරි එකක් යනවා. අර කිව්වා වගේ අර මේ ටීචර් ගිහින් කම්ප්ලේන්ට් එකක් දාපුවාම ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට්ලා හැටියට අපිට බෑ තොරතුරු එළියට දෙන්න. ඇතුලේ තොරතුරු අපිට එළියට දෙන්න බෑ. ඒකට අපේ හයිරාකි එකේ ඉහළම පොයින්ට් එකෙන් අපි අප්‍රූවල් ගන්න ඕනේ අපි එළියට ගිහින් කතා කරනවා නම්. හිතන්නවත් පුළුවන් ද මෙහෙම දෙයක් ගවර්න්මන්ට් සර්වන්ට් කෙනෙකුට වුණාම මොනවාද කරන්නේ? කාටද කියන්නේ මේ? අර වැටත් නියරත් ගොයන් කානම් කාට කියමුද ඒ අමාරුව. ඒක තමයි අපිට තියෙන තත්ත්වය. ගවර්න්මන්ට් සෙක්ටර් එකේ අපි යන්නේ ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නවල තමයි ඉන්නේ. මොකද අපිව ගවර්න් වෙන්න මේ අර මං කියනවා වගේ එක එක දවසට ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඕනේ නීති දාලා අපිව ගවර්න් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
නිලන්තිව අඳුන ගන්නකොට ඇත්තටම අපි හම්බ වෙනකොට මේ C190 ගැන කතා කරන තැනකදී අපි හම්බුනේ. එතකොට තමයි අපිට තේරුනේ ඇත්තටම අපි චේම්බර් එකකින් අපි දැන් කාලයක් ඉඳන් මේ gender based violence and harassment ගැන C190 ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම ගොඩක් අද ඕගනයිසේෂන් දැන් නිලන්තිගේ යූනියන් එක හරහා ඒගොල්ලෝ කරලා තියෙන වැඩ ටික තේරුම් ගත්තාම තමයි මට හිතුනේ ඇත්තටම අපි ඉන්වයිට් කරනවා කියලා අදහස් කරෙත්. ඒගොල්ලොත් ගොඩක් ඒවත මෙතන තියෙන ලොකුම ප්‍රශ්නේ අපි ඔක්කොම තැන් වල ඉඳන් වැඩ කරනවා කොලැබොරේටිව් එෆර්ට් එකක් නැති නිසා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේවායේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් දකින්නේ නැහැ. Right. Mano, I'm turning over to you. In your organizations, to have this conducive environment preventing violence and harassment, is it necessary to have very clear guidelines and people? You spoke about holding the leadership responsible. Now, to do that, how do you communicate it across the organization, and how do you make sure that these things are implemented effectively? I think implementation is where we fail most of the time. So what are your thoughts on that?
So, listening to all this, one of the things private sector should do, before I answer your question, is what worked for us is, when you build an organization or you join any organization, you have the business pressure and then you have all these issues. One of the things it changed me when we did anonymous surveys, right? A lot of people think they shy away because, it can be this thing. But if you really get professional help and structure the questions, you will start seeing leadership credibility, whether you're harassed, you can put down, and that is a fantastic indication. You will have errors of margins and etc. But that gives you the heartbeat. Any company, you all represent a lot of companies, who refuses to do that is hiding something, right? Is hiding something, and the leadership is for me, they don't fit to be leaders, because unless you know the heartbeat. And what we have done, I can just share you consistently, you have this great place to work, and that is done not by us, it's done by someone else. They have to go through 200 questions, and it comes and it reflects on you also, right? How you have run it. So you get a survey done, and then you know where you're really wrong, because you might have a perception everything is tickety-boo, because in Sri Lanka people don't speak out, right? They don't speak out. Of course you will have, somebody writing, I hate my boss because of this, and you will have that. But because of that, you can't stop the other one. But the amount of information we got, and we started addressing this, of a lot of things, right? To make it safe, to have this. So I think it is a collective responsibility, but I personally feel you have to make the leadership accountable. And this is what I said, when I sit on boards of different, I said, do you dare to publish your health of the organization, right? And I think it will happen now. Even these inclusive board is all are trying to meet this target, 33%, 34%. But personally, are you developing enough people to come up to management? So those are the things what we have to really make accountable. So one thing I'll ask you, whatever organization you are, or you belong, or you work, let's do an independent survey. And then let's talk about the figures. This is not to prosecute anyone. This is where we are, and then you can take those actions.
We can take a few questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic across to you. While we do that, Shami, I want to ask you, how realistic is a C-190 ratification in Sri Lanka?
Well, 2 days ago in Parliament, the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment has committed to ratifying C-190, but I'm rather skeptical, because in 2020 there was a cabinet proposal which was approved by the then cabinet to ratify C-190, and the then Minister of Employment, Labour and Employment, came for International Women's Day in 2020. Nilanthi and I were both there, and promised to ratify C-190 before the next 2021 International Women's Day. Then the same minister came at the International Women's Day 2021 and said, well, we are working on it, just give us a little more time. And then 2022 he came and said, well, I can't ratify it just because you all want me to ratify it. I had to ask so many other people. So I'm a little skeptical about politicians. But what you do need to do is, whenever you can, participate in campaigns, show that there is interest beyond the trade unions and the few women's organizations. Don't make this about women, because then it's very easy to push it aside saying, oh, this is just a very insular interest. It is not. It is not even about gender-based violence and harassment. It is about violence and harassment at work of any kind. So get your male counterparts on board. Get everyone to say, if you're being harassed in any way, if you have faced violence, and there is plenty of physical violence in workplaces, especially in the public sector, then, and I don't mean fisticuffs, I mean excessive overtime, I mean, not allowing you to go on toilet breaks. Do you know in the apparel sector they have limits on how many times you can go to the toilet? Things like menstrual health is not accounted for. We still wrap the packet of sanitary napkins in a patra kalla and take it from the shop, no? Even in the supermarkets, they used to put it in a brown paper bag. Now, after the economic crisis, they've done away with the brown paper bag. You know, it's a bodily function, for goodness sake, get over it. But we don't talk about it in these workplaces, and it affects different people differently. Asking you to do something that is physically difficult at a time when you're suffering from some kind of viral fever would be inhumane. It's the same thing with menstrual health as well. So there isn't enough conversations about this. There aren't enough women in trade unions. There aren't enough women in trade union management. There aren't enough women speaking up and standing for election. Even to parliament, we can't meet the 25% quota because women won't stand for election. So this is in a country where 52% of the voting population is female. So, and education, there are more females than males being enrolled. So in this situation, you have to make this not about gender. This is about violence and harassment in the workplace. Take the gender equation out, because gender-based violence is only one part of it. Other people face violence and harassment in so many different ways. Denial of leave is harassment. Somebody wanted to take leave for their wedding and the boss refused permission, saying that no, you have this assignment on that particular day. And they resigned actually, and this was a male, not a female. So this is harassment. Make it common, make it seen, make it identifiable for not just sexual based and gender-based violence, but about any kind of violence and harassment is not acceptable in the workplace.
Thank you. Nana, you have a question.
Okay. From morning, there have been two words that have been mentioned over and over. One is leadership, the other one is the challenge, where people don't challenge themselves much, and also how the leadership should take responsibility. Everything you have been discussing, which is true, but I think all of us have gone a little too old to change, and that's why we are finding it so difficult. So should we not start at school level and at university level to make the change? Would that be more useful, maybe with the teachers and schools? Will it help to change this attitude of people and society?
Shamini, it's yours.
You really want to give me another chance to speak? I can go on till the cows come home. But yes, absolutely. It has to start at not even a tertiary, but primary school level. Respect for each other, not just about rights of women, but respect for each other. How you treat each other amongst peers, amongst women, amongst girls. How you and this whole thing of me first. Competition, the unhealthy kinds of competition that you see. I have 3 children myself, and I have seen it in different ways at all levels. And I remember my daughter used to go to a primary school in Colombo, where one parent made the little tricycle race be run again, because they said that the child was, discriminated against. That one fellow was pushing and the other one was riding, and one team won, and the parent came and said, no, I want it rerun because, my child was, you treated him unfairly. And they reran it, redid it, and then the same result came about. So this is just a very small example. We don't have enough respect for each other. We don't have this, compassion towards each other, I think, at a fundamental level. But this will take a long time to come, because we are a very fake society. The whole edifice is going to come crumbling down around our ears. But yes, we have to start somewhere, and I would say I don't really know how it would work, but I also think making religion an examination subject is one of the key problems of just learning the content for marks and not for internalizing. You can't really test your religious faith. Not to say that religion is the panacea for all ills, very often it's part of the problem. But really, it has to start from building the kind of non-competitive environment that other countries, especially in the Nordic countries, have tested out very well, and also countries like Japan. So there's a long answer there, but in very brief form, as brief as I can get, that is it.
I just want to take you on leadership. Leadership is a very misused word. Leadership doesn't mean it is top, right? Today, leadership is without titles, right? Everyone has to be a leader, right? It doesn't matter. You don't need to have a title to say I'm a leader, right? Because the modern society, the way we evolve, everyone is a leader, whether you're a janitary worker or everyone has a leader. So you have to build this concept of you are a leader, right? And that'll change, because if you're a leader, you will pick it's not only the guys who are leaders who will pick the dirt and put it into the sea. You have to start teaching children to embrace leadership, right? And you don't need to have titles to be leaders, and that is very fundamentally important. We are all leaders.
And I think a lot of this training can start at home if parents start treating the children equally. Boy child, girl child, there is really no difference. They need to share duties, respect each other, and then it can go to school, university, beyond, into the society. Hopefully we'll have a better place. You have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to share sort of a little experience that, because I lived in a diverse countries in Nigeria, Australia, and Hong Kong. So I learned to be very tough with a lot of, dealing with different people, different cultures, and racism, all of that, right? So I was quite tough. So when I started my career in one of the largest shipping company as the only finance person there who reported to Hong Kong and their regional officers, I was the only female there. So obviously, not in a bad way, but the male counterparts, because I was very, very young and a professional, and they would try to tease me, but they didn't know I was much stronger than they themselves, because they found out that very soon. But I don't think a lot of women are as strong as I am, right? And I don't think they should go, through all this, right? So I think that respect in the workplace is very important. And now I run the largest property transaction company, where 80% of my employees are female. And the other 20% top management who are also, who are male are very respectable to, respect the female, and ethics and professionalism is not, in any way compromised in my organization. So that I actually make it known. I think that is leadership, where, if there is some compromise, I bring them there, deal with it, and if it is a harsh one, I won't sack them. So that is how I think it, I don't think in my organization there's any, mistreatment. And also living abroad, I know from the Sri Lankan school system, it has a lot to do, like Mano said, to do with our upbringing. We don't teach ethics. Mostly it's about rote learning and competition. It's all about competition. My daughter went to one of the leading local schools, and I was really, really, really annoyed, because it's about who the influence, it's about, all of that things which don't matter for children. Children are children, right? So I think, and ethics are not taught. It's about you stealing another book, learning, and then, not giving the wrong book to your counterpart. It's about competition. It's very, very wrong.
Thank you.
So that is the whole thing of it.
Thanks a lot for sharing your opinion. We'll take one more question from the audience, because we are actually running way behind schedule. Yeah, can we get a mic across to that table?
This is just a question, but I think it comes back what Mano and the panel and everyone said. Education is key, but also the role that our religious leaders play across faiths and across. Because I remember about 3 to 4 years ago, when we tried to bring in sexual education to grade 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. There was huge uproar in our society and through our religious and cultural, everyone were basically protesting on the road. But you see that 17-year-old girl in Hambantota. Did we see a single press release? Did we see, I might be mistaken, but I didn't see anything come up from them. And where is the education? Because in the end, our country is still, Gamai Pansalai Vaya Dagabai. That's our concept still, that we go fundamental of Sri Lanka is. But how many, poor sermons are given on how to basic respect and to respect women? How many Friday sermons are given on those topics? Where is the Sunday church sermons? And still, what is said and done, our religious leaders in the country still hold a significant sway over our policymakers. When they are swearing, first where they go all to the religious places. So that is where I think where one action point where they can, and that is their duty. That's what God, whichever religion, that's what God has given them to do. And that is their job description given by God. Whoever you believe in, whichever religion, that is their job description. But how we can create influence and what role they are going to take, because you saw yesterday's incident, and it's not like we don't have funds. Example, for the Hambantota 17-year-old, there was not a single public statement issued. I mean, easily our faith leaders could have helped that girl recover. This is my personal opinion, it could be controversial, but it's not they lack funds or anything. They could have sent to the best counselors in the world. They could help that girl recover. They could fought for the justice. Today, we don't know what happened even to that court case. And do we hear any noise? I don't know, from Shamli maybe. Are we hearing any noise where they are starting to take action, or they are seeing it as this issue and they are starting to talk? Or it's as silence and it's up to us to fight our own war? Is that what we are seeing? I don't know.
No, absolutely. You have to be outraged for, it's not just one young doctor or a 17-year-old somewhere. Society as a whole has to be outraged. There was outrage when all those incidents happened in India. We see rather less of that because we are too politically correct sometimes. And this comes back to your school question, madam. How many parents would speak up if your child is harassed in school because you think of, they may not be appointed prefect or may not be captain of cricket, whatever. And they go through that and tell the child also not to complain. And I hate one of the words that we use very often in Sri Lanka, which is karume. Karume is destiny or fate. And a lot of domestic violence is, perpetrated in the name of karume. And you go crying to your parent and your mother and you're told, well, it's your karume, go back and get beaten up again. What to do? This is your karume. So we have a lot to blame for our attitude. We don't have enough outrage in us. We don't have enough outrage on behalf of Rohini Kaviratna. I don't care what her political affiliation is. I can't even remember. When she's openly, insulted on the floor of parliament, there's not enough outrage. There's not enough outrage when Nilanti's postal staff member is harassed like that. And that's a very simple case for a lawyer to break because the criminal law applies to everybody regardless of your public service. You have the right and you are duty bound to go. If I see a murder on the road, I don't have a choice about reporting it to the police. I have to report it. So your right to go to the police can't be stopped by the government, but you can see where the commitment is. In Parliament, the Minister of Labour gets up and says, we are going to ratify 190. And then some other cuckoo fellow goes and interdicts this lady for having complained to the police. What planet are we living on? So, again, I have long answers. I'm very sorry. But the short answer seems to be that, it's time to start getting outraged.
So I want to jump in there. Which means, what are we going to do about it? It's not somebody else, it's us. And I find that I get very irritated because I find we don't.
Yeah, and I like Mano's definition of leadership. each one of us is a leader on this. So it's about what are you going to put.
And madam, you're not too old. You can, all of us have to change. This is the thing, we always say, I'm too old, I'm not set in the right position. I feel that is the biggest crime here.
Absolutely. So I think this discussion, if we allow it to go on, it will go on forever. So what we will do is have just one short session of closing remarks. I'll start with you, Neelanti.
මම පොඩක් කියන්නම් අපි කොහොමද C190 එක ගැන අපි මොනවද කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. You can see with discussion in this discussion Shamali's face, she was very disappointed. මොකද එයා 2020 2021 2022 මේ අවුරුදු ගානෙම හැමදාම ගිහින් අපිත් එක්ක parliamentarians ලව එයා කරන්න ආවා. මට මතකයි 2023 ජනවාරි මාසේ වගේ දවසක මම ෆෝන් කළා ශාමලී අපිත් එක්ක පොඩි ඩිස්කෂන් එකකට එන්න. නිලන්ති මං ආයේ එන්නේ නැහැ පාර්ලිමෙන්ටේරියන්ස් ලව වෙයා කරන්න. මොකද උන්ට කියන දේවල් වැඩක් නැහැ. උන්ගේ ඔළුව වලට යන්නේ නැහැ කිව්වා. හරිම ඩිසපොයින්ට් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. මොකද එච්චරට අපි මේක එක්ක වැඩ කළා. මේකත් එක්ක වැඩ කළා. අර කියනවා වගේ මම වෘත්තීය සමිතියක සමාජිකාවක්. අපි වෘත්තීය සමිති දැනුවත් කළා. මගේ වෘත්තීය සමිතිය විතරක් නෙමෙයි, ගවර්න්මන්ට් වෘත්තීය සමිති විතරක් නෙවෙයි, ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර්, පබ්ලික් සෙක්ටර්, ඒ වගේම අපේ ප්‍රොටෙක්ට් වගේ කොපරේටිව් යූනියන්සුත් අපි ව්‍යා කරලා තියෙනවා. මොකක්ද C190 වල වැදගත්කම? ඇයි ඒක කරන්නේ? ඒ වගේම අද මෙතන කතා කරනකොට උනත් වැඩිපුර කතා කරන්නේ sexual harassment. Sexual harassment විතරක් නෙවෙයි C190 කියන්නේ. C190 අපි කට්ටිය කතා කරනකොට දැක්කනම් ශාමලීගේ ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එකේ තිබුණා මොනවාද මේකෙන් කවර් වෙන්නේ. මේක ඇතුලේ sexual harassment විතරක් නෙවෙයි කතා කරන්නේ. මේක ඇතුලේ gender based violence විතරක් නෙවෙයි කතා කරන්නේ. අපි කතා කළොත් කාන්තාව විතරක් නෙමෙයි හැරස්ට් වෙන්නේ. කාන්තාව විතරක් නෙමෙයි සූරා කෑමට, ලිංගික සූරා කෑමට මේවට ලක් වෙන්නේ කාන්තාව විතරක් නෙවෙයි. මම පාටිසිපේට් කරන්නේ මම ඉන්නේ මේල් ඩොමිනේට් සෙක්ටර් එක. ඔගොල්ලෝ අහලා තියෙන්නේ පෝස්ට් මාස්ටර් ජෙනරල්, මේව ඇතුලේ නෑ පෝස්ට් මිස්ට්‍රස්. එහෙම කෙනෙක් නෑ. ඔගොල්ලෝ අහලා ඇත්තේ පෝස්ට් මාස්ටර් ජෙනරල් ඒ වගේ නම්. නමුත් මම ඉන්නවාද? ඒ මොකද අර කියනවා වගේ කාන්තාවන්ට යන්න මේ ජොබ් සිකියුරිටි එක වැඩිම දැන් ගවර්න්මන්ට් සෙක්ටර් එකේ නිසා කාන්තාව වැඩිපුර ඒ පැත්තට හැරෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒක ඇතුලේ තියෙන ඉන්සිකියුරිටි එක ගියාට පස්සේ තමයි දැනගන්නේ. අත්දකින්නේ ඒක ගියාට පස්සේ. අපි පාර්ලිමෙන්ටේරියන්ස්ලා 2020 ඉඳන් දැනුවත් කරලා තියෙනවා. පාර්ලිමේන්තු එකේ ඉන්න කාන්තා සංසදය සෑම වර්ෂයකම දැනුවත් කළා. ඒත් එක්කම අපේ දැන් වර්තමාන අගමැතිනිය අපිත් එක්ක රවුන්ඩ් ටේබල් එකක C190 රැටිෆයි කරන්න ඕනේ කියන ෆයිට් එකේ ඉස්සරහින්ම හිටියා. අද වෙනකොට මතක නැද්ද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේම මේ වගේ ගොඩාක් දේවල් ෆීඩ් කරලා එක දවසක් අපි ඇව්වා ගිහින් කතා කරන්න මේක ගැන C190 රැටිෆයි කරන්න බල කරන්න පාර්ලිමේන්තු එක ඇතුලේ කියලා අපි ගිහින් එක අමාත්‍යවරයෙක් දැනුවත් කළා. ඒ අමාත්‍යවරයා මේ ඔක්කොම අහගෙන නැහැ. මේක කාන්තා විමුක්තිය ගැනවත් කාන්තාව මේ ලිංගික සූරා කෑමට ලක් වෙනවවත් ඒක ගැන නෙමෙයි මේ කියන්නේ. C190 කියන්නේ ඒක නෙමෙයි. secured world of work. harassment and violence and harassment වලින් තොර වැඩ ලෝකයක් ගැන අපි කතා කරන්නේ. මේක ගැන දැනුවත් කරන්න කියලා අපි ෆීඩ් කරලා අරපු ඇමතිතුමා පාර්ලිමේන්තු එකේ අන්තිම මොහොතේ කට්ටිය නැගිට යන වෙලාවේ නැගිටලා කිව්වා මෙන්න මේ කාන්තාවන්ට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් මේ කාන්තාව වැඩ කරන තැන් පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්සිකියුරිටි එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ ගැන පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. මේ 190 කියලා. මේක ගැන අපි පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරමු කිව්වා. නැගිටලා. අර අපි ෆීඩ් කරපුවා නමපු පොල් කට්ටකට වක් කරපු වතුර ගොඩක් වගේ වුණා. කිසිම කෙනෙක් මේක ගැන හරියට ඉන් ඩීප්ලි කතා කරන්න එන්නේ නැහැ. මං හිතන්නේ මිස් ශාමලි ගිහින් ෆීඩ් කරනවා අපේ හිටපු ලේබර් මිනිස්ටර් කෙනෙක් ගැන ලේබර් මිනිස්ටර් කෙනෙක් ඉස්සරහා ඒ මිනිස්සයා හොඳට නිදාගෙන හිටියා. ඒ මිනිස්සයා හොඳට නිදාගෙන හිටියා. විමන්ස් ඩේ එකකදී ශාමලි ගිහින් කතා කරනවා මේ C190 එකේ C190 රැටිෆයි කරන ෆයිට් එකේ මුල ඉඳලා හිටපු සමාජිකෙක් ශාමලි අපිත් එක්ක මේ තියෙන දැනට ලංකාවේ තියෙන නීතිත් C190 රැටිෆයි කරලා ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කළාට පස්සේ තියෙන නෛතික තත්ත්වයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් හොඳ ගැප් ඇනලයිසිස් එකක් ශාමලි කරා. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි සියලුම පාර්ලිමෙන්ටේරියන්ස්ලාට එදා උදේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු එකේ වාඩි වෙනකොට ඒ ගැප් ඇනලයිසිස් බුක් එක ඒ ගැප් එක ඇනලයිස් කරපු මෙන්න මේ බුක් එක අපි හැම පාර්ලිමේන්තු මෙම්බර් කෙනෙක්ගේම සීට් එක උඩ තියලා තිබ්බා. මේක බෙදුවා හැමෝටම. මේක කිසි කෙනෙක් කියවලා නැතුව ඇති. මම දන්නේ අපිට අවස්ථාව ලැබුණා අධිකරණ අමාත්‍යතුමා එක්කත් කම්කරු අමාත්‍යතුමා එක්කත් එකවර කතා කරන්න. අපි ඒ වෙලාවේ ශාමලි වත් ඔන්ලයින් අරගෙන කතා කළා. ඒ වෙලාවෙත් ශාමලි කිව්වා මේක ගැන කිව්වා මේක කියවන්න මේකේ මම ඇනලයිස් කරලා තියෙනවා මේ තියෙන ගැප් එක මේ අපි දැනට එක්සිස්ටින් ලෝ එකත් C190 එක අපිට තියෙන තත්ත්වයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඇනලයිස් කරලා තියෙනවා කියලා. කතා කරලා කිව්වා කන්සෙප්ට් පේපර් එකක් දෙන්න ඊළඟ නෙක්ස්ට් ලෝ එකට කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ මම ඒක තමයි කිව්වේ කෝල් කරලා අපි කන්සෙප්ට් පේපර් එකක් ලියමු කියලා. නිලන්ති මට නම් බෑ කිව්වා. මම ඔයා හින්දා මම කරලා දෙන්නම් කියලා මම හිතන්නේ මට කන්සෙප්ට් පේපර් එක එව්වා. අපි ඒක ඉස්සරහට යවුවා. ඒකත් යවලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් ඒගොල්ලන්ට කන්සෙප්ට් පේපර් එකත් හම්බ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ නෙක්ස්ට් ලෝ එක හදනවා නම් මේ C190 රැටිෆයි කරනවා නම් කන්සෙප්ට් පේපර් එකත් හම්බෙලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි ගාව හිටපු අපිත් එක්ක රවුන්ඩ් ටේබල් එකේ හිටපු වර්තමාන අගමැතිනියත් එතන මේ සියල්ල ගැන දැනුවත්ව එතන වාඩි වෙලා ඉන්නවා. නමුත් තවදුරටත් අපි ෆයිට් කරනවා.
Thank you. So you can hear the frustration. There's been a lot of work done. We've done it for about 2 to 3 years, but they have been doing it for a long time. So we need to all get together to get these closing remarks over to you.
I think Nilanthi said most of what I would have said. But basically, even if it is ratified, don't consider that as being the finish line. Violence and harassment is not going to stop there. So don't get hung up on ratification. එතනින් ඒක නවත්තන්න බෑ, ඒක නැවතෙන්නෙත් නෑ. And to everyone who is talking about education, don't forget that 95% of the teachers in this country are female. So if you're talking about values not being inculcated, the right ethics not being communicated, then there's something wrong with the teacher training as well. So it's a huge task. But more than anything else, don't consider this as an end if it is ratified. I don't know. But as Mano said very clearly and very correctly, I think leadership starts with you. So look at your spheres where you are and see where you can intervene, where there is violence and harassment. What help can you give? I agree with Bani that you are not, you don't need to have a savior mentality. You don't have to go and solve everybody's problems, but you can support. If somebody wants to go and complain, for goodness sake, don't say karume and let it go. Tell them, yes, you go and complain. I will tell you, come and say, but I know. We don't have enough of that. So whether it is male or female, whether it's a workplace or outside the workplace, it doesn't matter, but stand up for against violence and harassment when you see it happen.
I think there's a lot been said, but one thing, if we all collectively push for C190 and maybe even start at schools and universities to adopt it, to to be more aware of these things. I think awareness is also important. If we can use this social media and etc., even for companies to adopt it, I think if we make a good movement out of it, right? Everyone is aware, and we say this is the basis of any, you can speak to so many principals and says, just teach them what this is. Then you will bring a massive movement to ensure. I think we have to do it collectively. It has to be a social movement for change. Then it is very difficult for the politicians to.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to take Barney last. Just one final word, because this is exactly what they are doing silently. Creating this awareness, trying to create a safe workplace the way we can. So over to you, Barney.
So I think accelerate action is what we're here about, and I think it's like I keep harping about. Empathy and kindness, I think, is so underrated. If each of us can do what we can to raise awareness and behave that way, whether it be with our children, whether it be with our friends, whether it be in our workplace, I think all of that is needed, whether C-190 comes or not. Even with C-190, if we do not behave in that way, I don't think anything is going to change. So I think there's a lot of wrong happening, but how do we show kindness? I think education is where it needs to start, for sure. And in education, I've spoken to a lot of teachers. Parents seem to be part of the problem, one of the biggest problems other than politicians. We are parents. We are half of the parent. So in that sense, I think we do need to show a lot more kindness and compassion in how we go about trying to solve these problems also. And I think I'm going to leave it there. And since it's accelerate action, I think it's enough talk. And what are we going to do, I think, is important. Thank you.
Thank you to the lovely panel. Lilani, over to you. Just stay on.
Thank you to all our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to this expert panel. May I please request the panel to remain on stage, please? Now, may I invite Gayanidi Alvis, our chairperson, and Sara Samoon, board member WCIC and event co-chair, to come forward to hand over the tokens of appreciation to our panelists. Thank you once again to our panelists, and thank you for being a very attentive audience, you ladies and gentlemen. Next, we are going into a pre-workshop introduction on the tips and the importance of profiling of people to create cohesive teams. May I please invite Tusita to introduce our facilitator today, Dr. D, for this workshop. Thank you.
Okay, we are actually really behind schedule, but we try and catch up time. It's my privilege to introduce TIPS, the Cognitive Profiling and Personality Assessment for the 21st century. It helps you discover your TIPS profile and your natural path to business and innovation success. Recognize your preferred styles to think, work, live, interact, and innovate. It allows you to understand how to apply your talents to perform easily, effortlessly, and enjoyably. Most of you have already done your TIPS profile. So as participants in this program, you were provided a free TIPS profiling opportunity, which would have cost you $89 per person if you were part of his other workshops. So the man behind this magic is Dr. D, founding director and chief ideator of Thinkergy. I'm going to shorten this part and quickly play a video which will describe the tips as a whole. Can you play the video?
Albert Einstein noted, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Clearly, a fish needs to swim in the water. A bird needs to fly in the sky. A monkey needs to climb trees, and you need to do what comes naturally easy to you in an environment that supports your unique talents. But how can you find out if you're a bird, monkey, or fish? How can you uncover your unique styles that identify your natural path to success? That's easy. Simply use TIPS. TIPS is a new innovation people profiling method of the innovation company Thinkergy. TIPS combines 3 conceptual features into one elegant profiling concept: the TIPS bases, styles, and innovator profiles. Let's talk about the 4 TIPS spaces first. We are all attracted to one or more base orientations. These spaces that also stand for the acronym TIPS are T for theories, I for ideas, P for people, and S for systems. Successful business leaders do business in an industry and environment that fits their particular home base. Secondly, the 4 TIPS styles. We all have preferred styles to think, work, interact, and live that are linked to our dominant base. What are these 4 TIPS styles? Figure versus fantasy describes your preferred thinking style by tracking if you're more left or right brain directed. Brain versus brawn illustrates your preferred work style by capturing if you enjoy more working on conceptual projects or practical tasks. Fact versus feeling explains your preferred interaction style by examining if you prefer making your case based on facts or emotions. Finally, form versus flow describes your preferred lifestyle by probing if you like formal order or prefer to freely go with the flow of life. We use the 4 TIPS bases and the 4 TIPS styles to span the TIPS profiling map, which provides us with the coordinates to position the 11 TIPS innovator profiles, our third and final feature. After we uncover your dominant bases.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome everybody for our workshop on TIPS. Yeah? So my name is Dr. D, that's my brand, my nickname. My real name is Detlef, Dr. Detlef Reis, yeah? And I'm originally from Germany. I'm the founder of the innovation-creative breakthrough company Thinkergy, and I'm also an academic. I also lecture master students and PhD students at various universities in the region in Thailand and in Hong Kong. And what you also need to know is that I also once had a solid career, a traditional career. I was working in Deutsche Bank for many, many years. Also came with Deutsche Bank to Southeast Asia, and then at some point of time decided to do my own thing and reconnect with academia. I also just published a new book called Unleashing Wow, the Creative Leader's Guide to Breakthrough Innovation. If you like, you can scan this QR code and they can have a look at it. It links you to Amazon, yeah? And that's a book which is generally talking about how we can become more innovative as an organization, also as creative leaders, how we can basically set up a team, yeah? And that's something which will be given out also to some of you later on, and I'll tell you more about this later on. Yeah? Good. Now, I'm the founder of Thinkergy, and at Thinkergy, we know how to wow, that's our tagline, and we basically try to bring more creative breakthroughs here to the region by empowering creative leaders and their teams to be more innovative. And that's basically something we do by using a toolkit of systematic innovation methods that I've created. And today, we are going to talk about one of these methods, which is TIPS. And TIPS is relevant for innovation, but it's also relevant for many of you for talent management. And since we have also many people from HR here, we will focus more on the talent management side, but also talking about innovation. Yeah? So that's a quick introduction from me and Thinkergy. We are behind time by 1 hour, 15 minutes. Yeah? So I was basically erasing a lot of slides while you guys were doing the panel, but that's no problem. We will keep up for it. And nevertheless, we want to also not only know who I am, but we want to give 3 people from the audience a chance to come to the stage and quickly tell us who you are, what company you work for, maybe what is wow about you, what is special about you, and yeah, then we give you a big round of applause. So who dares to come to the front? 3 people. Who is courageous enough to step up to me? Okay, we have our first person. And we need 2 more. Anybody else dares to come to the front? Okay, excellent. And 1 more person. One more person. We have time. Yeah, we can wait. Please, not everybody, just 1 person. Okay, big applause. Good. So can you also do one thing at the end? Make some small movement like whoa or so to energize everybody, yeah? Because we have a long morning. Okay, and I hand over to you.
Then you want me to introduce myself and...
Maybe your company.
Okay, right. Professionally, I am a chartered valuation surveyor. I do valuations for properties and real estate. So that's about my profession. I have my own company. And yeah, that's short and sweet. So then you want me to say the...
Special about you?
Yeah.
Special talent?
Okay. Some of. So I'm the first female fellow in Sri Lanka, and I'm the one who started valuation company as a woman in Sri Lanka for the first time. So that's about me, about the company, and you want me to say the wow factor of myself, right?
Anything, action movements.
Okay. So I think maybe like my uniqueness. Maybe I think I'm the one who I think, because I can make myself, that means my imagination is about myself. Wow.
Good, excellent. Big applause for you, and we pass on.
My name is Zuma. I work for Haley's Fentons as AGM in the Group Business Development. I work for Haley's Fentons as a AGM in the Group Business Development. Yeah.
Anything that is special about you, special talent, special interest that you have, maybe special hobby?
So I actually did your profiling. So when I was going through that, I actually realized like that strengths which I could have in me. Okay. So I would say like, done a lot of work, putting up my teams and everything. I've really found myself being a team player, being a lead role, like not being the bossy boss, but being the friendly boss with the team and all. So that's something which I've identified in myself.
Great, excellent. Anything that you use to energize yourself and your team?
I love to take them out for drinks and dance,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Minoli Vikramasinghe. I head the largest property transaction company. Actually, I formed it. I'm the founder. We started with only 2 employees, and we are the largest property transaction company. We work with the largest brands like Colliers, CBRE, Knight Frank, and Sotheby's. And also, we are also part of the leading real estate companies of the world. What is best about me is I try to get the best out of my employees, and most of my employees they think out of the box. Excellent. And that's exactly what I want in my employees. When I recruit, I tell, are you just going to be an employee and just going to do your job? Then you're not with me.
Wow. So now, one reason why I invited you to the stage is I wanted to start something which we are going to do from now onwards, which is action tags. Yeah? Action tags, anybody who takes action today in our workshop will get rewarded by action text, these stickers. Yeah? And is it easy to come to the front? No. So how many action texts does everybody deserve? 2. All of you get 2 action texts, and please stick them to a business card. At the end of our day, we will have 3 prizes, 3 book prizes of my new book that will be given out to those people who collected most action texts. You get one more, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you. All right. And so when you go back to your place, stick them to the backside of your business card. Oh, you have only one. Sorry for that. And everybody will have a lot of opportunities to win action tags today. And why we need to take action, I tell you in a moment. But before that, can we have another round of big applause for our 3 courageous panelists? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, good. So, Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president of the United States, the key brain behind the US Constitution, says, the more I do, the luckier I get, and that holds true for you too. The more action you take, the higher the chances that you win some prize at the end. Yeah? Now, why is it important to take action? Yeah? This is Peter H. Diamandis, who is the founder of Singularity University in Silicon Valley. And he is also a futurist, and he wrote the book, The Future is Faster Than You Think. And in this book, he writes the following. In the next 10 years, we are going to reinvent every industry on this planet. But the change is one that is for the benefit of the masses, whether it is in longevity or food or banking. Yeah? So every industry will change. Yeah? And recently, he made an update. He said, in the next 4 years, we will witness 100 years of technological change. So he sits in the heart of where these changes basically are produced, and he knows what's coming. Yeah? So we better listen. Yeah? And what you need to know is that we are at the beginning of a new technology cycle. Yeah? There is a macroeconomic concept known as long waves, which means every couple of decades, there are typically 3 new technologies coming out that will drive economic progress for the next coming of decades. Yeah? And that's something which basically started with the Industrial Revolution, the first wave, water power, textile, and iron. Then we had the second wave, which was all about steam engine, the railway, and steel, roughly 1845 to 1900. Then the third wave was about the automobile, combustion engine, chemical industry, and electricity, 1900 to 1950. The fourth wave was about petroleum, oil, and electronics and aviation. Then the last wave that many of us basically took part in was the information and communication technology wave plus the internet. And that wave basically has just ended. COVID has extended it maybe by 2 years. But nowadays, all the big tech companies, they are letting go of people because we have started a new wave. And that's the 6th wave. And what it will be driven by is 3 tech spaces. On the one hand, digital technologies, which is an extension basically of the last wave. So this is everything with blockchain or generative AI or digital currencies, and the cloud technology and so on. On the other hand, sustainable technology, which is everything that is essentially cleaning up the sins of the industrial age, making us cleaner energy, cleaner forms of transportation, and so on. And the third space is something that many people overlook, which are human-centered technologies, which is everything that makes us live longer and hopefully healthier lives and more productive lives. Yeah? For example, things that will come in the coming years, personalized medicine. Also, there will be maybe microcomputers or micro drones that will be in our blood vein to clear off clots in our arteries and so on. So there are a lot of things also coming about in this change here. And of course, something that is in the center at the moment, or that is driving a lot of change, is digital technologies, here particularly artificial intelligence or AI. Yeah? So that's something which is coming up. Yeah? And if you look at how these changes are reflected in the stock market, you see that in the year 1970, there were mostly leaders of the third and fourth wave on top of the Fortune 500. So General Motors, ExxonMobil, Ford Motors, General Electric, IBM, Chrysler, Mobil, Texaco, and so on. So these are oil companies or automotive companies predominantly. Yeah. Then in 2017, the top 5 companies were the big 5 tech companies: Apple, Alphabet or Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon. Yeah. In the year 2050, maybe Apple, Alphabet or Google and Amazon are still around, maybe also Microsoft, but on top there will be new companies coming up. Yeah? So we are at the beginning of a new tech cycle, and every industry will be reinvented, you could say, in the next 10 years. Yeah? And who is going to do this? Who is going to reinvent the industries? Of course, it's done by people. Yeah? People basically have the ideas, yeah? And then as a team, they are executing these ideas and basically bring forth new innovations. Yeah? Now, when we talk about people, it's good to come back to a really good management book that was written a couple of years ago by Jim Collins, yeah? Good to Great. And in this book, he says the following about people. Yeah? If you have the right people on the bus, the problem of how to motivate and manage people largely goes away. The right people don't need to be tightly managed or fired up. They will be self-motivated by the inner drive to produce the best results and to be part of creating something great. Yeah? So again, it's all about having the right people on the bus. That's what Jim Collins says. Yeah? And if we want to do this, bringing the right people on the bus, there are certain things that we need to consider. Yeah? So when we want to master these challenges that are lying ahead, then the first thing that we need to do as company leaders, as maybe HR managers, maybe as entrepreneurs, is finding out who do we have already on our bus right now. Yeah? That's the starting point. Yeah? Then the second thing is we also need to make sure that we put every talent who's on the bus into the right seat. Yeah? We also need to make sure that they are doing the right things that come naturally easy to them. Yeah? And that we also equip them with the know-how that is needed to master these future challenges. Yeah? So there will be a lot of HR development needs in the coming years coming. Now, then, also, we need to find out what are seats on the bus that we have not yet occupied, yeah? But where we need to bring somebody in because of these changes. Yeah? And we also need to find out that we then bring in the right people to occupy these vacant seats. Yeah? So we need to hire the right people for our journey. Yeah? Finally, we may also find out that there are some people on the bus that maybe have done a great job in the past, but they now basically don't have the right attitude. Maybe they don't support our values anymore, or the role just doesn't fit anymore. And then we might also find out how to basically part from them in a graceful way and in a fair way. Huh? So that's the talent challenge, and we can say it's all about creating greater talent awareness, talent alignment, talent management, talent development, talent planning, talent acquisition, talent transition. So these are the related functions. Yeah? And as you see here, this is all aligned across the talent management life cycle. And in order to manage this talent management life cycle, I want to introduce to you today a new method for profiling personality, for profiling talents, which is called TIPS. Yeah? And many of you, thanks for that, have taken the time to complete a questionnaire. Some of you failed, and if you had a problem, talk to me afterwards. I will try to help you that you can still do the test. Yeah? And in order to create awareness why TIPS is really helpful to manage your talents, yeah, we want to start by playing a little game. Yeah? And for this game, we will have some helpers who will distribute a plan to you. Just go down and show you how it looks like. Yeah? So every table will get such a map. Yeah? And if you have this map, you need to somehow put it somewhere on the table that you have some space, yeah, and that maybe no water or no oil, no juice or so spills over, because later on we will assess what you have done. Yeah? So we have 17 tables, yeah, and you will also get 15 cards, yeah, which look like this. Yeah? So this is a game for hiring people, yeah? And you have 15 candidates who basically want to get a job. And you have, as you see here, you will have 11 open positions in your company that you want to staff with these candidates. Yeah? So 15 candidates, 11 positions, yeah? Which means you hire 11 people and you don't hire 4 people. Yeah? Good. And of course, you will get points based on how well you do this. Yeah? So so this is how it looks like, this map. Yeah? These are the cards. Yeah? And then if you put the right person into the right job, so for every position there is one candidate which is exactly the right fit. Yeah? And if you hire this person, then you will get 2 points. Yeah? If you hire a person who is a good fit and you put him almost in the right seat, yeah, you still get 1 point. But in life, yeah, there are not only right people, there are also some people maybe who are wrong fits, maybe who have an evil agenda. And if you hire such a person, yeah, so 4 people, you need to be careful with 4 people. If you hire such a person with a negative agenda and put this person into the right job, this person can create a lot of damage, yeah? So minus 2 points. Yeah? And if you hire this person and just put him in any other position, you get only minus 1 point. Yeah? So that's an activity which we are doing now. So we are now distributing to every table the sheets. Yeah? And then you can distribute the cards, and then together as a team on your table, you try to hire the right people. Yeah?
So you will place this on your table and place the candidates on top of the jobs and keep it there on the table. During the break, Dr. D will come around and do your scores.
So don't you move on.
Yes. So just.
And of course, the winners will get action tags. Yeah? Okay. So enjoy, and you probably need 10 to 15 minutes of time for doing this. Yeah. And then we go into the break afterwards, and I will assess your performance. Anybody has a question? Yeah? If you have questions, come to me or talk to some of the team members, and then we are going now to distribute the cards and the plans. Yeah? So what I recommend, like this table here, they are already on the right track. You need to stand up and you need to move around so that you can see basically what the map is all about. And I make the map also to the front again so that you can also see it here on the front. So these are the positions, yeah? And if you like to stay seated, you can take a look here. But then later on, you need to make sure that it ends up on the right place, yeah? Okay, any question from you guys? You guys are okay, yeah? Good. You can also see it here. I also put it to the front. Yeah, that's easier. Yeah. So it's also you can always look at the front. There was the grid, yeah, the same grid.
Can you read the read
Hello, you are okay? Good. Without reassessing, yeah, the person who gives brutally honest feedback and on what's right or wrong with our reasoning and concepts. Our reasoning, how we argue, yeah, and this person is very brutal, yeah, gives brutal feedback, yeah. You are wrong, yeah, okay. You are okay? Okay, good. Yeah, good, great. Yeah. Oh, you already started. Yeah, you have already some positions, some hires. Good. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, good. So you already have some positions. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Oh, you're only 3 people, yeah? But maybe that's easier for you because you don't need to debate so much, yeah? Okay, wow, good, yeah? Okay, that's a good one, yeah? Good. Oi! Oh, it's okay, yeah? It moved to the right side, yeah? There's not enough space here, then so many classes, and yeah, it's, yeah. Okay? Okay, good. All right. Oh, you make secret code, yeah, on the backside, yeah? Yeah, okay, good. You have floodlight, yeah, like in football at night, yeah? It goes quite dark, yeah? Okay. Oh, you have already quite a few people almost in the right position, yeah? And but it looks quite good, but there's some shifts that you need to do, but you generally are on the right track. You're okay now? Yeah, good. Everything working? Yeah? Good. Excellent. So how is it going? Hi. Okay, so the 4 people that you don't hire, you just put the cards to the side, yeah? So 4 people will not get a job. how much time? Okay, so 2 more minutes. Time moves so fast, and so make your moves. Yeah? So you need to make your moves to fill the positions. Yeah?